Mercedes looked finished after first practice at Spa. Kimi Antonelli was only 6th, George Russell was 8th, and the team had made a crucial mistake before the session even began. Mercedes had overestimated the available grip, chosen an underwing setup, and left both drivers fighting a car that simply was not positioned correctly. Then, in just a few hours, everything changed. Antonelli jumped from 6th to 1st with a lap of 1 minute, 45.944 seconds. He beat Lando Norris by 190 thousandths, and no one touched his time for the rest of the session. Mercedes had not brought a new car. It had not found a miracle upgrade. It had made one radical setup correction, and that decision may have saved the entire Belgian Grand Prix weekend. But there was a problem the timing screens could not hide. George Russell was still 1.285 seconds slower than his own teammate, even after his power unit issue had been fixed. So did Mercedes truly rescue its weekend? Or did Antonelli's fastest lap expose a major flaw hiding inside Russell's car? To understand how Mercedes changed the entire direction of its weekend, we need to begin with the mistake that almost destroyed it. The car was not fundamentally broken. The engine was not suddenly uncompetitive. The drivers had not forgotten how to attack Spa. Mercedes had simply prepared for grip that was never there. That sounds like a small miscalculation. In Formula One, it can affect almost everything. Before the cars reach the circuit, engineers build a picture of how the weekend should unfold. They study temperatures, previous races, simulation data, tire behavior, wind direction, and the expected condition of the asphalt. From that information, they decide how the car should be positioned. How much wing it needs. How close it should run to the ground. How the suspension should behave. How much stability the drivers will need in the corners. Mercedes believed Spa would offer more grip than it actually did. So the team arrived with an underwing configuration. In simple terms, the car did not have enough aerodynamic support. That gave Mercedes less resistance on the straights, which can be useful at Spa. But it also left the drivers with less grip through the corners. Imagine trying to run across a wet floor in lightweight shoes. The shoes may help you move quickly in a straight line. But the moment you try to change direction, the lack of grip becomes obvious. You slow down. You hesitate. You take smaller steps. The shoes have not suddenly become heavy. You simply cannot trust them. That was the problem facing Antonelli and Russell in first practice. The car may have looked efficient in a straight line, but the drivers could not lean on it through the corners. And when a driver cannot trust the car, the damage spreads. He brakes earlier. He turns more carefully. He waits longer before returning to full throttle. The tires begin sliding because the car is not supported properly. That sliding creates heat. The extra heat reduces grip. Then the driver slows down even more to protect the tires. One incorrect assumption creates a chain reaction. And this is why Mercedes looked so ordinary in the opening session. Antonelli finished 6th, more than half a second away from the fastest time. Russell was 8th, almost 9/10ths behind. Those positions were disappointing, but the timing screen only showed the final symptom. The deeper problem was that the car had been built around conditions that did not exist. Mercedes expected the track to provide grip. The track refused. And Spa is one of the worst places to make that mistake. This circuit forces teams into a painful compromise. Use more wing, and the car gains stability through the corners. But that extra wing creates more resistance on the long straights. Use less wing, and the car cuts through the air more easily. But the driver may lose confidence through the faster sections. There is no perfect answer. The goal is to find the least damaging compromise. Mercedes had leaned too far toward straight-line efficiency. The car was underwinged, the grip was lower than expected, and the drivers were left trying to create confidence that the setup could not provide. But that was only the shared problem. Russell had another issue. His power unit was not operating correctly during the opening session. That partly explained why he was even farther behind. Now Mercedes had two separate problems producing one ugly result. The overall setup was wrong. Russell's car also had a specific mechanical issue. And this is where the situation could have become much worse. When several problems appear at the same time, engineers must separate them before making changes. Otherwise, they may fix the wrong thing. Imagine your car feels slow while one tire is losing air and the engine is also misfiring. Changing the tire helps. Repairing the engine helps. But unless you understand both failures, you may believe one repair has solved everything. Mercedes had only the short gap between practice sessions to work out what belonged to the setup, what belonged to Russell's power unit, and what needed to change first. The easiest reaction would have been caution. Make a small adjustment. Collect more data. Avoid moving too far away from the original plan. Mercedes did the opposite. The team accepted that its original direction was wrong. It repositioned the car. It corrected the wing level. It gave the drivers more aerodynamic support. That decision sounds simple after the result. Before the result, it was a gamble. Adding wing can improve grip, but Spa punishes resistance. A car carrying too much wing may become easy to drive through the corners, then painfully slow on the straights. That makes overtaking difficult. It makes defending difficult. It can force the driver to use more electrical energy just to remain competitive. Mercedes needed more grip, but it could not afford to destroy its efficiency. So the team was not merely adding downforce. It was searching for the exact point where the car would become stable without becoming slow. And Antonelli proved almost immediately that Mercedes had moved in the right direction. On his first soft tire run in second practice, he produced a lap of 1 minute, 45.944 seconds. He went fastest. He remained fastest. No one beat that lap for the rest of the session. The car that had looked underwhelming only hours earlier was suddenly setting the standard. Antonelli had climbed from 6th to 1st. He finished 190 thousandths ahead of Lando Norris. That was not a minor improvement. It was a complete reversal. But the most important change was not visible in the final position. It was visible in how quickly the time arrived. Antonelli did not need repeated attempts. He did not need several sets of tires. He did not spend the session slowly discovering confidence. The speed appeared on the first soft tire run. That tells us the setup change gave him something he had been missing. A clear response. When a Formula One car reacts consistently, the driver can commit. He can brake later because he trusts the front tires. He can carry more speed because he trusts the rear. He can return to the throttle earlier because he expects the car to remain stable. The stopwatch records the result, but confidence creates it. That is why Mercedes' turnaround was so powerful. The team did not manufacture new performance between sessions. It unlocked performance that had been hidden by the wrong setup. The car already had speed. Mercedes simply had not placed it where the drivers could use it. And that distinction matters for the rest of the weekend. A slow car needs development. A badly positioned car needs understanding. Development can take weeks. Understanding can transform a car in hours. Mercedes found that understanding before Friday slipped away. Antonelli later described the changes as a positive direction. That wording is important. He did not claim the problem had been completely solved. He said Mercedes had found a direction. In Formula One, direction is everything. A team can tolerate an imperfect Friday if it knows what to change. What it cannot tolerate is confusion. Confusion leads to random adjustments. Random adjustments create new problems. Then qualifying arrives before the team understands which version of the car is actually fastest. Mercedes escaped that danger. The engineers listened to the drivers. They accepted the grip estimate had been wrong. They corrected the underwing configuration. And the result arrived immediately. But here is where the apparent rescue becomes more complicated. Antonelli's lap proved the change worked for one car. It did not prove Mercedes had solved everything. Russell's power unit issue had been repaired before second practice. The obvious explanation for his first session weakness was gone. Yet he still finished 1.285 seconds behind Antonelli. That gap is too large to ignore. Teammates can be separated by a few tenths. One may find a cleaner lap. One may make a mistake. One may prepare the tires differently. But more than a full second suggests the story is deeper. And the available analysis pointed toward the straights. Russell appeared to be losing time there compared with Antonelli. That created a new problem for Mercedes. The team had added aerodynamic support to correct the first practice mistake. More support helped Antonelli find grip. But if Russell's car was now struggling for straight-line performance, the correction may have created a different compromise on his side of the garage. Perhaps his configuration produced more resistance. Perhaps his energy deployment was different. Perhaps another issue remained. The source does not provide a confirmed final diagnosis. But Mercedes could not simply celebrate Antonelli's fastest lap and move on. The comparison between the two cars demanded an explanation. Because a Formula One team does not need one competitive car. It needs both. One fast car can fight for a strong result. Two fast cars can control the race. They can attack different strategies. They can pressure rivals from both sides. They can protect each other during pit stops. They can force other teams to make uncomfortable decisions. If Antonelli starts near the front while Russell remains far behind, Mercedes loses that power. The team becomes divided. One side attacks. The other side recovers. One driver thinks about victory. The other thinks about traffic. And at Spa, traffic can destroy a race. Following another car reduces aerodynamic grip. Reduced grip creates sliding. Sliding damages the tires. The driver then needs more time, more energy, and more risk to overtake. If Russell was already struggling on the straights, becoming trapped behind slower cars could make the problem even worse. That is why his deficit mattered so much. It was not merely an embarrassing comparison with his teammate. It threatened Mercedes' entire strategic position, and it revealed how fragile a Formula One turnaround can be. From the outside, Mercedes had gone from 6th and 8th to 1st. That looked like a complete rescue. Inside the garage, the engineers saw something different. One car had found the performance window. The other had not. One driver could attack. The other remained more than a second behind. The general setup mistake had been corrected. A specific weakness was still alive. This is where Friday became a race against time. Mercedes needed to compare every detail between the two cars. Wing settings, ride height, energy deployment, tire preparation, straight line speed, throttle application. The point where Russell's deficit began. The point where Antonelli's advantage increased. The engineers needed to determine whether Russell's problem came from the car, the setup, the tires, or the way the entire package worked together. And they needed that answer before qualifying. Because the setup that produces the fastest Friday lap is not automatically the best race setup. Qualifying demands maximum performance for one lap. The race demands stability over many laps. More wing may help the tires in the corners. It may also leave the car vulnerable on the straights. Less wing may improve speed. It may bring back the same lack of grip that damaged first practice. Mercedes had already moved from one extreme. Now it had to avoid moving too far toward the other.